Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Finest Fridays. This is the 10th in a row that we have been doing this, and we are glad that you are able to not only join us for the three books that we will be talking about, but also the six books that showed up in the catalog. I will be talking about it a little bit more over on Very Fine Condition tomorrow morning. Of course, I am your host, Dom of X, comicreleases.com associate editor, and today, of course, I have one of my best pals in the world joining me to talk about all of this, and that is none other than Kurtis Finley, host of the Epic Marvel Podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing great and really eager to talk about some more great comics here. For all of you who are watching, we share your pain. We are all not at Comic-Con this year.
Yeah, I'm not there. Curtis isn't there. Like we should both. It would have been cool to have like a small little like live box in the corner and just talk about the DC finest as we're in person. But I'll take this. Like we're still hanging.
Yes, that is true, and we're happy to be here with all of you also, who are also not at Comic-Con. We're gonna have a good conversation because we got a lot to talk about. It's not just like the three books for this month, but yeah, like you said, that there's some new content. There was a recent movie starring a particular DC character that came out,
Yes.
and like, what should we talk about?
I
What should we talk about first?
That's a great question. I actually want to ask you what your opinion was on Superman. I know that you and I have both seen it. I have seen it multiple times, but I did see you and your family hanging out and watching the movie. I want to ask what your thoughts were on that movie before we start, because I do think that this movie will tell just how excited I think people are overall with the new DC era and the whole DC slate going forward.
Yeah, I think that I saw it twice. I really liked it. I thought it was great, and I wouldn't have gone to see it twice except my cousin said I need someone to go see it, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'll definitely see this one again. The movie is really good. I quite enjoyed it. I remember, so I'm not old enough that I saw those original
Mhm.
Supermans in the theater, like the Christopher Reeve Supermans. Um, I probably could have seen Superman 4, but I wasn't in that world
Mhm.
quite yet. But I saw Superman Returns and I saw Man of Steel and um I saw no, I didn't see Batman Superman. But anyway, the those out of those three movies, Batman Returns, Man of Steel, and this new one, Superman. I left the theater every single time, actually really excited about Superman because each of them is very different and has a very different take on the character and the movies themselves do a good job of telling the story of what they're trying to convey with that Superman. What I liked about this one is that it was so it was just bright. It was fun. It was just an enjoyable, entertaining experience. And while I understand what Zack Snyder was trying to do with the previous one, previous version of Superman, it wasn't the same. It was exciting. It wasn't the same kind of exciting. It wasn't as fun exciting, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
And then the Superman Returns one, there were moments in there that I was like, this is so cool. Like, say, putting the airplane down in the stadium and all that kind of stuff. But um, given time, it's like, well, what really stands out about that movie is like, well, maybe not a whole lot. I think will, um, this movie will probably stand the test of time. I think that it's a movie that people will be able to rewatch it in years to come and still get stuff out of it. And I think it's not just because of Superman, while he's a great character, but it's got an amazing supporting cast and all of the actors do an incredible job in there, and it's just a good, inspiring tale of hope and being kind to one another, and I think that's great.
I can agree with a lot of what you said. Especially in terms of Superman just being like, I think some people when they create films or when they make TV shows or whether they write the comics or not, I think oftentimes, obviously, we see the villain being punched out in the end, finished, and all that, and like that's cool. But I think we also tend to forget the hero portion of the
Mm,
word, which I think is just as important as the super. And I really appreciate that this movie brought the heroic aspect in the forefront, because that just makes us like Superman a lot more, and bonding with him as an overall character. Um,
yeah.
Whether it's saving a random civilian on the street or a squirrel, I
Yeah.
thought that Gunn nailed a great job on who Clark is supposed to be, and what his entire mission statement is about. And yeah, I mean, the cast was awesome. I love Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. I think one of my favorite Lois incarnations ever. And Nicholas
He
Holt
was
is, yeah,
so good.
I agree. And Nicholas Holt as Lexi Boy. Oh my goodness.
He was amazing.
I,
Yeah. It
I
was great to just
mhm,
have a really solid monologuing villain.
mhm,
Like, yeah, it just some people are like, well, he didn't have that great motivation. He just
mhm.
hates Superman or whatever. It's
Yeah,
like he's
that's
no attempt to take over the world or
mhm,
what or anything like that. But
mhm.
that's okay. I mean,
Yeah,
he's just a lunatic,
right.
and that's fine.
Yeah, that's also I think a major point of a lot of his character. Like, he just hates the guy who just views him as beneath him, and wants a world where he doesn't want him in it. And I think that
Yeah.
perfectly captures what Lex is about. So let us know in the chat, as we say hi to y'all if you have watched the movie. We're also again glad that you are here live. Matt H says, "Hey guys, happy to be able to catch you guys live. Happy to catch you as well, Matt. Hello." Mr. Batman, love seeing you here. Ultra Mega Nicola, okay. Hi Dom, hi Kurtis, and Finest Fridayers, whether you're watching live or watching the recording after. Jake says, fingers crossed for a Batman and a Superman title. For DC Finest, I mean, we got a lot of them to talk about. From the new announcements, looking forward to Western early JLA books in March next year. Again, we have a good amount to talk there. Western does sound interesting. Let's see. Would love to know what's going to be in that one. Batlash, Jonah Hex, Scalp Hunter, Johnny Thunder. I will say that I talked about this a little bit in the Near Mint Condition Discord. There will be. I'm going to put up a video of all of the bigger-ish books that got published, because as of right now, the catalog isn't completely published. We only have what's on Penguin, and my contacts, also Omar's contacts over at DC, are currently enjoying themselves at Comic-Con, where we are both not at. But I will be putting a video up tomorrow at 3 a.m. just to talk about like what's there. And then once our DC people get back to us, I will be making a follow-up video talking about the contents on the channel that I work for. Yeah, Kryptonite Nevermore, Proper Congress Reader, hello. Kryptonite Nevermore, Metamorpho, Killing Joke, Catwoman, Vengeance and Vindication, Zero Hour 1 and 2, all read in July, plus Nightwing Compendium. Which one? Volume 1 or 2? Chunk of Starman and some westerns. It's a lot. Which ended up being your
Good
favorites?
job. Wow, that's a lot of reading. Good job.
I can't. I can't fathom to imagine how much. How much? I mean, that is like. I think that's like 4 Omnis worth of stuff right there, or at least more. Um, Alas, I'm impressed. I think of all the Western characters, Hex is probably the only name big enough to have a separate line from the Western anthology. Plus, it goes all SF later on. Yeah, I would agree with that. Because
Okay, question.
yeah,
He said one of the comments said that Johnny Thunder. He was wondering if Johnny Thunder would be in the. Is that the character from Justice
yep, that
Society?
is one of the Justice Society of
And he
America
goes
members.
Western at some point?
He does.
Okay,
Um,
weird.
yes, I still love.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
who doesn't love Michael Rosenbaum? Man, I love Michael.
I was such a big Smallville
Mhm,
fan back in the day. Michael
mhm,
Rosenbaum was
yeah.
so good in
Mhm.
that role.
My mom loved that show, and we watched it, and I mean, that's still one of my favorite Superman anything ever. Um, Watched it twice, loved it. Family and friends did as well. Even even a good portion of like my brother or my younger brother and his friends who are bigger Marvel fans than DC fans said that they really, really, really like Superman. So I think I know it's a very, very, very minute sample size, but it is nice to hear people being open to watching more DC. Um,
Yeah, it's an accessible movie just in general. You don't have to know anything about the Justice League lore. Even bringing in all of those other characters,
mhm,
Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific and all them, like you didn't need to know any of them,
mhm,
any of their
mhm,
backstories to understand their
mhm,
powers and also their character. Like
mhm.
those characters were written really well. With the exception of Hot Girl, I think that I would have liked to see more screen time with her. They kind of pushed her aside in favor of Mr. Terrific, but maybe in the next movie.
May perhaps. I think that this movie was probably will probably make a lot of Mr. Terrific fans, like just from the onset of how cool his
Was
character.
so good in that.
The one standalone scene he has, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but I was like, yeah, if this doesn't make somebody a Mr. Terrific fan, I have no idea what will. I think of
That
all,
scene was
yeah.
so James Gunn
It was
all
very
over.
much. I will say, I do think the person who acted the best of all those four was Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, where he was just this unapologetic d bag, but exuded so much enough to the point where you do actually want to punch him, and he kind of does get oh his ego kicked in a bit. I'll say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, nice Titan shirt. Thank you, Matt. I do. Oh my gosh, that is. I think that's you as Batman and me as Robin, Curtis. I don't know if you can see it on the screen.
Wow, that's awesome.
I
I
appreciate
love
it.
it.
I love Matt. That is an awesome profile pic.
Please send us the bigger version of it.
Yes, please. We would love to see it. He also got to meet him for his graduation trip. That is so cool. That is so cool, Batman. Um, Having just done a chunk of 90s Starman and that book being about legacy, there is a reference to there being a couple of different Johnny Thunders. And yes, that is correct. We have had a
Okay.
couple of different Johnny Thunders, pre-crisis, post-crisis, even a brand new, well, not a brand new one, but one that gets retroactively changed in Doomsday Clock. Just a part of the long, sprawling history with so many different reboots. Because yeah, I can't wait for you, Curtis, to get to post 1990 Justice Society at some point. Hopefully, they get some of those in DC Finest as well. My biggest want is DC Finest Batman, Dennis O'Neil, Neil Adams, criminally undercollected throughout the years.
Really? That's undercollected because they keep reprinting
Mm-hmm.
those omnis and they had trade paperback
Mm-hmm.
versions of it, right?
Yeah, but I think people want the Neil Adams stuff non-recolored. They re
Oh, okay.
yeah they re yeah Jay sorry Neil Adams recolored all of the artists or the illustrations that he had done in his own omnis, and it was not critically well received.
Okay.
And my understanding now is that they're going through a different restoration process so that they could bring the old colors back from those 70s comics.
Oh yeah, well that would make
Into
sense then.
yeah.
It has absolutes.
Mhm.
The absolutes are there as well. Those are I'm assuming are the recolored version as well.
I don't think that there is a Batman by Neil Adams absolute, to my
Oh, is there?
knowledge.
No, oh, so sorry, what I'm thinking of is
Green Arrow,
Green Lantern.
Green
I'm
Arrow,
thinking of Green
yeah, right,
Lantern.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. But yes,
So yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
we need Dennis O'Neil back. Let them know, guys. It would be really cool to get burned by Superman in DC Finest. Have Superman jump around so people can experience different eras of the character, because there are so many different versions of Super. Everybody has a different take on the Man of Steel, and I
That's
find
what
it.
we're getting
Mhm,
with the new
mhm,
announcements. I know this is going to jump ahead to the conversation, but the new announcement
mhm.
for the new Superman volume is the 1951, right?
Yes.
So that's great. We got some stuff from the very beginning. We have stuff from the 70s, and now we have a volume in the 50s.
Hmm.
So that's jumping around quite a bit.
Indeed. Got the science fiction and kryptonite nevermore DC Finest in this week. Good morning to you, eclectic electric Brent Hogan, and I can't wait for you to read them as well. Um, and I want to get to one more, and hopefully we can get the overview started on these books. I really want the question by Dennis O'Neil in DC Finest. You and me both. I think that would be awesome. All right, Curtis, are you ready to talk about these three books that we have on hand at our fingertips?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. The first of which is DC Finest Wonder Woman, The Legend of Wonder Woman, which collects the years right before Crisis on Infinite Earths hits, and as Crisis on Infinite Earths hits, with the Mindy Newell tie-ins. And also, to my knowledge, Mindy Newell was the first woman who ever wrote Wonder Woman for DC. So there is a tidbit there. But a lot of this volume is written by Dan Mishkin, who is appropriately on the front cover, and as he should be. This is most of his run. I'm actually very surprised that they didn't include. He wrote 10 issues beforehand, and I didn't realize that up until I think it's the second issue where they mention a character that Wonder Woman is fighting, and they said, "Oh, this character pops up there." But then I went on DC Universe Infinite to see if that character had popped up in the book. In fact, let me see if I can even mention reference it. Uh, yeah, they she is fighting. What is her? Oh yeah, Aegis. And the editor said that in Wonder Woman 229 he popped up, but it's issue 295, which is his first appearance, that he pops up first. But regardless,
Okay.
yeah. But anyways, Dan Mishkin's run is most of this trade paperback. He'd written 10 issues beforehand, but most of the issues here are by him. I find it interesting too because it is a lot of Greek, like the mythology of Wonder Woman is like prevalent in these specific issues. You're dealing with Hippolyta. You're dealing with Aphrodite. You are dealing with different different mythical beings in and out for most of the trade paperback. Something that I actually didn't anticipate, because George Perez also does the same thing to sort of rework the mythology of Wonder Woman with those gods. And I was like, man, the previous volume must not have had any of those, but they are very much front and center, whether it's Wonder Woman talking to them, fighting them, whatever the drama might be. And also with this along as well is all of Wonder Woman's main supporting cast being a part of the U.S. Air Force, which I was just very, I was partly baffled by. I was like, why is Steve Trevor in the Air Force? That felt weird to me. But nonetheless, I had a lot more enjoyment reading this than I anticipated, and I'm completely unfamiliar with pre-crisis Wonder Woman up in this until this point, but it's the same sort of framework that was built up by Dennis O'Neil that they sort of sometimes reference to, whether it's Wonder Woman being undercover. But Kurtis, what did you think about it?
This volume was a lot of fun. I wasn't sure what to expect because I don't know very much about Wonder Woman history at all. And one of the only things that I've read really in detail is the first Wonder Woman DC Finest, the Gail Simone stuff. So um, I was pleasantly surprised to find that most of this is drawn by Don Heck, who I really think should have had a cover credit on
I
this.
agree.
Um, and he's great, and I love him in the Silver Age of Marvel when he's on different titles, like Iron Man and such, and doing some really beautiful work there. He's just got that classic Silver Age or late Golden Age comic book style, and um, and I think it brings a lot of Silver Age kind of aspects to this book, even though we're in the Bronze Age. Even though this is the stuff right before Crisis,
Mm-hmm.
it still kind of feels like a throwback. And I think we talked about this a little bit with Superman Nevermore as well,
Mm-hmm.
where that one had a lot of elements that were still very Silver Age.
Yes.
And this is the same era. And so I think what we see and I'm discovering is that DC kind of kept that whole Silver Age uh, aspect and feel going for a lot longer than I thought they did. Um, there were a couple of cheesy elements in here, like
Mm.
the will they, won't they
Yeah.
relationship between Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, especially regarding her secret identity. In every issue, it's like, I think I'm ready to
Mm-hmm.
finally tell Steve who I really am. And Steve is like, I don't need to know. I don't tell me your secret. Whatever it is, it's your business. Yeah. And they kept on, sorry, going back and forth. And by the end, especially on the very last issue of the series, when like the whole big battle and everything comes to a
Mhm.
head, it's like, okay, finally we get to it. It actually did feel natural in the way that the reveal kind of was kind of out of left field,
Mhm.
and and it was a satisfying ending. I thought it was very exciting. The build
Mhm.
up to that final issue,
Mhm.
really, really good.
Yeah.
And building up to the point where we're having this all-out battle of the gods, and this is actually really amazing. What a great finale to the series. I can't. I would, if they were. I don't know what was going on behind the scenes with publishing, and maybe um, somebody can tell me, but was the reason for stopping this title because of low sales and they wanted to reboot it with a number one, or did they just want to reboot it with a number one because it's George Perez that comes on next, right?
Yep. George
After
Perez
Crisis?
yep, takes on the title like Man of
Because I know
Steel. Yeah.
like Batman and Superman, like their numbering didn't change. Why did Wonder Woman's numbering have to
Oh,
change?
Superman's changed. Batman's didn't.
It, great, great. Okay. It was good. At the very end of this book, we have a four-issue miniseries called The Legend of Wonder Woman, where this book gets its title by Robbins
Mm-hmm.
and Kurt Busiek. This is some of his earlier work,
Mm-hmm.
um, pretty new in the industry at the time. And Trina Robbins is was typically an underground, sort of an indie comic artist. And her style is a lot more simple, maybe a little bit more cartoony. It really suits the mood that they're trying to go for here and trying to reflect kind of the golden age
Mm-hmm.
of Wonder Woman. Has a lot of those kind of awkward poses that they would have in way back in that day. I can't say that it's my favorite part of the book. It's a little rough. It's not as compelling as the actual real issues, but I'm glad it's there. I noticed that it was a few months after the series ended. So again, someone can tell me because I didn't look this up. Um, did the George Perez reboot happen like the direct month after the series ended, or did they wait a little bit?
Yeah, let us know in the because I my head is like 1987 is when the new Wonder Woman starts, and then that's when we have the post-crisis mythology of everything that Diana is doing. Um, but I will say on that front too, like Kurt Busiek also writes a fill-in issue to the in this book on the main Wonder Woman title, where it's an Aphrodite story, and I found it interesting that Kurt Busiek was writing in the mid '80s on Wonder Woman, like a book that, like, if I thought of Kurt Busiek doing something early on in the '80s, Wonder Woman probably would not have been my thought. No offense to Kurt, but I'm thinking of you doing something like Superman, like a random issue of Action Comics or Superman, but he didn't do that in the '80s. Um, and I do find it interesting that, like, as the book ramped up, because I found some of the early stories, like there's a body swap story that takes prevalence in the first 3-4 issues of this book, where we have to deal with Black Canary, and a person who suffered in the Holocaust during World War II, and their bodies get swapped, and we have to deal with that onset. But I found the last like 10 issues or so, like right before Crisis on Infinite Earths, and of course those Crisis on Infinite Earths tie-ins, really well done. I think somebody probably told Dan, like, hey, your title is ending. You need to do something, with your title. And it's that whole adversity through art. Like, might as well go all out if your title is going to end anyways. If the whole world is going to end, what will you do with the thing that you're currently doing? And I found
Yeah.
those really, really well done. And yeah, Don Heck easily should have had. No offense, like I love Trina Robbins. Like I respect her a lot. In terms of the work that she's done for comics. I remember reading a New York Times editorial on her passing away and just how important she was for the female community early on in comics. But Don Heck easily should have had at least something on the cover because a lot of his art is in the book, and it is It's great. I don't know what else to say besides that. But yeah, those are my overall thoughts on Wonder Woman from 1983 to 1986. And we can take some thingies from the chat. Okay, so I was wrong. It's Joy Hummel who wrote under the Marston name. That was the first. Okay, Ultra Mega Nickel. Okay, I'm so sorry for that misclaimer notes. So hopefully everybody who was watching after takes notes of that. Karsten, I hope you're doing well. I set up the stream quite. It was 10 minutes before showtime. I was trying to get the announcements ready, but I hope you are okay. To be honest, and not to be a contrarian, but as an early Golden Age and George Perez fan, I didn't love much of this, but I thought the Legend of Wonder Woman was pretty great.
There we go. Okay. Well, then I understand why, if you're a Golden Age fan, then yes, I understand totally why you would like Legend of Woman. I think it fits perfectly in that style.
Yeah, it definitely does mimic a lot of Golden Age storytelling, not only from the art aspect, but also the storytelling aspect with the heavy, text boxes and dialogues, trying to mimic that type in that era. Ryan, the not a not related person to Jess, I hope you're doing well. When I read the Crisis on Infinite Earths tie-ins that are also collected in here, I thought they were among the better ones. They didn't feel very Silver Agey to me. They do feel a lot more like today's like if you told me that was published in the 2000s, I probably wouldn't have even noticed. I would tend to agree. Yeah, it was because of Crisis. They wanted to reboot the character of Wonder Woman. Also, hi hi Kurtis, Dom, and chat, by the way. Good morning to you, Phil Owens. Um, Parworks Comics Reader says post-Crisis we get Batman and Superman that have been around for a while and their new origins and flashback stories. Wonder Woman is reintroducing contemporary continuity could be a factor. That is also true. I mean, we've also had like different retellings of their stories, right? For Batman, especially like we get to see something brand new with him in 0 Hour. Superman, obviously, we get Man of Steel with Byrne, but I mean, he's had a billion origin stories since then, right? Superman Birthright reintroduced a brand new story for Clark, and then Jeff Johns. Oh, as Kurtis went away. Kurtis, what happened?
I keep talking. I need to reboot my computer, so just keep on talking and go without me. I'll be back in a bit.
All right, we will be back with Kurtis in a bit. But yes, post-Crisis, we get Batman and Superman that have been reintroduced. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's what they wanted to do. And in my honest opinion, Perez did a great job. I really want DC at some point to publish DC Finest. George Perez in DC Finest. The problem is we have those complete collection type ish trade paperbacks that take up a lot of that same spotlight. So hopefully we get them at some point, because it would be nice to see them repackaged in that deal, similar to how Marvel is doing with the Spider-Girl Epic Collections and taking over from their line. There was a gap of a few months while they figured out what they wanted to do with Wonder Woman. Also, they had problems finding creators who wanted to work on the book. And from my understanding, Phil, at least this is what people have told me, Perez, I mean, the crunch lines that man went on Crisis on Infinite Earths, drawing all those spread pages, drawing the itsy bitsy characters and making them all detailed. I have heard that, yeah, he went through a lot doing that. And it definitely would... I mean, salute to the guy, man. I mean, 12 issues of nonstop fighting and explosions and worlds colliding and the Anti-Monitor and all of these different heroes coming about for one last hurrah. I cannot imagine the crunch time that he went on and all of the pain that his hand must have gotten through with Crisis on Infinite Earths. I've never been a fan of Crisis on Infinite Earths, so that may have been a factor in why I wasn't really into this. Wonder Woman getting her own Scrappy-Doo didn't help either. And that's completely fair. I think that there are different elements in different parts of DC where they sometimes stick with one person and then they don't, right? Like, I will meet people who are super big fans of, at least this is me with the Teen Titans fandom back in 2018, 2019, when I was part of that community. I have met people who really like the '05, and by '05 I mean Wally West, Donna Troy, Roy Harper, Dick Grayson, and Garth. Like, I find people who are big fans of those guys, but not fans of the '80s because they introduced a completely brand new team that just wasn't similar to the Bob Haney stuff that they were reading. Right? I think that there are things that in specific runs where we gravitate towards them. And I do completely understand you, Ultra Mega Nicola. I completely understand you on that front. My opinion, da 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 da. Doing well. Thanks for asking. Hope all is well with that. I hope you guys are all doing well too. Thanks, Dom. I can watch the first 20 minutes or so later. Hey, I appreciate it. I just love to see a Joe Kubert Omni. I hope that the Wonder Woman by Perez Omnis volumes 2 and 3 get reprinted. I hope they do as well. I think that, man, DC's got a lot of good books in the next 2.5 years. I think I am allowed to say that. I think one other thing that I'm partly not confused by or meddled by, in this Wonder Woman run, well, maybe not confused. There is one issue where where one specific Wonder Woman supporting character gets Wonder Woman's powers and becomes a Wonder Woman for a day. I thought that was a little bit interesting, if albeit a bit weird. I think there's still a lot of '80s stuff that is in the midst of this. Like when Kurtis and I eventually get to talk about the science fiction DC Finest along with the Justice Society, well, not the Justice Society of America, but the science fiction one especially. Yeah, I mean, body swapping was just a big thing, right? You were like, oh, we're going to put this brain in one other person's head and see how they tack on for a day. As Kurtis comes back. I just find, I don't know, maybe it's just the Psylocke X-Men thing in me, but alas, it is what it is. But welcome back, my friend.
Thanks. I need to get a new computer.
Oh, no, you're good. It is all good on that front. But yes, that is, I think, most of, if not all, the words on Wonder Woman, the Legend of Wonder Woman, which again, 39. I forgot to list off the contents of the book, but yes, Wonder Woman 306 to 329, and stories from DC Comics Presents 76 and Blue Devil issue number 10, along with the Legend of Wonder Woman issues 1 through 4. Oh yeah. The last thing I have to say, I was surprised that they brought in Blue Devil in here, which is also written by Dan Mishkin. And yeah, it's never been before collected. I didn't really think much of it. It didn't really make a substantial impact on me, but again, credits to completionism. But yes, that is all of my closing thoughts on DC Finest Wonder Woman. And in fact, let's go ahead and we can move on to the next DC title that released this month, specifically for DC Finest, which is none other than Justice Society of America, the Plunder of the Psycho Pirate, even though I think for this one and the next book, these are not the overall dominant theme, at least on the subtitle part, because a lot of this takes place during World War II, which I would like to now go on a sort of like a small 2-minute spiel. I'll let Kurtis take over because I think he's read more than me. I will admit I am a little bit behind in the DC Finest reading, particularly because of summer classes, but now that I'm off, I finally get a chance to catch up and I'll have more thoughts next month. But what I got, at least from the parts that I have read, Kurtis, I mean, this is a full-fledged World War II book now. You have all of these guys going to different parts of the world. There are advertisements that are specifically for people in America to buy war bonds or to contribute some stake of their lives to the ongoing efforts in the European theater and also the Pacific theater. There are stories in text where you have Hop, who is one of the supporting characters, if you will, and he talks about, this is where I went to. And it's full prose stories. There are advertisements in here. But But this is in the same Star Spangled continuation that we got from the first collection of All Star Comics, and it's a lot of the same tone, all the same characters too. Um, but what were your thoughts on it?
This is a lot of it's along the same lines as the previous volume. In fact, there's in terms of the way that the stories are being told, not much is different. So if you remember from the first volume, each issue, and these are like double-sized issues, each issue would start with an opening scene where you set up the problem where that the Justice Society has to tackle, and then you get a series of 5 or 6 page stories, each featuring one of the Justice Society characters in a solo adventure dealing with some of this problem, and then a 1 or 2 pages at the very end where they all come back together and wrap up the story. And this book is used as a way to promote all of the other titles in the DC
Mm-hmm.
lineup at the time. So at the very end of each issue, it would say, an exciting adventure of Dr. Fate every month in more fun comics. It would have it right at the bottom there. And so that would be at the bottom of everybody's stories. So that continues through this volume. And so each of them get their own chance to shine, and each one of those chapters is done by a different writer and artist,
Mm-hmm.
and usually it's the team that's doing their stories in those other books as well. You're right. This is definitely the war years. This is 1942 to 1945, so it's covering everything, all of the war years. And if you don't like politics in your comics, you probably shouldn't pick this one up because there's a lot of politics in here. And there's this one character that comes up called Conscience, whose design is exactly ripped from the Blue Fairy from the Pinocchio movie, like Disney's
Mm-hmm.
Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Like it's exactly the same, and that which was a couple years before these comics were published. And Conscience comes and teaches everybody um, about truth and liberty and the evils of Nazism and all that kind of stuff. And so the last book, or sorry, the last chapter in this book, um, she sends all of the Justice Society to different points in time so they can learn about propaganda and what evil dictators do in order to sway the masses. And um, there's all of these. It's just let's see. There's a character who has to learn a lesson, and he says at the very end, "Believe me, all this senseless, useless bloodletting was only for the personal satisfaction of these same military men and rulers to build up their own ego." That's what he's talking about, the people who are on the Axis side of World War II. And so, stuff like that. Um, and the guy says, unless we uproot the idea of a German master race above all religions, races, and nationalities, Germany will always be a menace to peace. And Hawkeye responds with, good. You now see how their misguided people have been convinced that they are the superior people. Only Germany is that Germany is the only country with a destiny, and they think that destiny means enslaving millions of humans, white, yellow, and black, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, and Mohammedan. Germans label them inferior. What a colossal conceit. So it's all of that kind of stuff. Like that
Mm-hmm.
language is through all of these political stories that are here. Now, not the book isn't all politics. There are lots of stories in here that don't relate to World War II as well, and most of them are a lot of fun as well. I find that one of the things that the traps that Justice Society falls into is that because they each have to face off against the bad guy individually, they're not portrayed as very effective heroes.
Right.
So there's this one story where there's a monster that's terrorizing business people and banks and whatever and that kind of stuff. Also, the Justice Society does defend capitalism a lot in in this book. But so the monster is attacking all these people, and they have to go. And each of them are go off to try and find the monster, and each of them individual. And the monster is just like a Mr. Hyde kind of a person. Um, and they each confront this villain in their own story, and they each fail. And for some of these people, like the Spectre, who nowadays the Spectre is like an all-powerful being,
Hmm.
the Spectre gets like a chokehold and gets overtaken by the monster, and the monster runs away. It's like, what? this so it's those kind of stories that I think this team the way that these stories are produced, they fall into that trap a lot. The better stories are ones where like each of them has to find a clue and they bring the clue back and together they can piece together what the solution to the problem is. Or there are a couple of times through this book where they all get sent to different parts of history, and each one of them experiences a situation from a different perspective through a different points of history. And that kind of storytelling is a lot more entertaining because it's just not the bad guys or not the good guys just failing every single time.
Right, and I feel like I mean it was kind of prevalent in the first volume that we read of it as well, where it tended to fall into the trap of, can we see like this random bad guy like shows up, beats him for a couple of pages and a couple of panels, and then you know they recollect and regroup at the end. Um, but yeah, like I just found it super interesting that like a lot of these stories were integrated into the fight over it. Like I think like Starman has a story where he he finds like, you know, Italians and Greeks and Russians, different groups of people, you know, all concocted up, and because you know they're um all fighting the Germans in some way. Starman's like, yeah, we may be from different nationalities and religions, but you know, you can't beat the combination Hitler. It's like way too strong. I'm gonna get demonetized for saying that, but nonetheless, I really just found this, like, I just find this to be a cool, neat piece of history, especially with the advertisements just in between detailing like which specific section of the, you know, the war front that the comic would be focused on. And also, as you get to the end of the book, there are like blatant words outright, like, hey, this, like, donate war bonds or donate this, like towards the last 200-ish pages of the book, right? Because it's 1944, D-Day's happening. You know, all the Allies get to France, and it's the race to Berlin. And I don't know. I just find this to be a really cool time capsule. But also with everything that you said on this front, I don't know if I have a. There's one story about, I can't. I failed to describe it, but there's one story where they talk about Buddha. Like every single front is covered in this book. If like your thing is history, and you want to read about Lend-Lease to China, or you know, the invasion of Burma, like there's something in here. I think if you are a historic geek and you are really into World War II, I think this is definitely going to be a book that you would want on your shelf.
It's always fascinating when you look at this material and you and realize that these people don't know what the outcome of this war is going to be, because it hasn't happened yet. The last issue of this book is spring 1945. So D-Day, um,
D-Day was
uh,
June 6th, 1944.
oh, June 6th, 1944. Okay. But yeah, so that happened, but they hadn't, like, I don't think that the war had officially ended. Like um they hadn't had formal surrenders from all parties at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they yeah, there's just it's just interesting that they are trying to uh, do their best to rally people for this cause. And I love the wartime cartoons of Walt Disney. A lot of those ones are super interesting to watch as well, and see what the people were thinking at this time. And there's propaganda on both sides. Like
Yeah.
a lot of this stuff, like they talk. There's that one story I was mentioning where they all learn about bad propaganda, but guess what? This is also propaganda on the other side toward Americans as well. And it's just a piece of very interesting history.
Oh, it definitely is. And I think it just in that front, like I like a lot of these stories also take a decent like time to read. They're not quickies. Although I do find that in this volume, some of the stories here are like they're circular panels. They don't take up as much of the page as much as it did in volume one. Um, that being said, I still do think that it is worth a read, even if it's not the Justice Society book that most people like when they think about it. But yeah, this is, I mean, it's Star Spangled Blood,
Yeah.
or every single issue. And if that is your thing, I think you will get a kick. I think you'll get a kick out of this book. Do you have a favorite JSA member through 2 volumes now, Kurtis? I'm just curious.
I still like Hawkman. I think he's great. The ones I don't care about are the Atom, Johnny Thunder,
Mhm.
and um, Mr. Terrific. Don't really like this version of him. Um, Spectre's kind of cool, and knowing what he becomes is neat to see his origin in these early days. There's one story in here where they all get affected by different um, emotional states,
Mhm.
hate. And one guy gets affected by hate, one gets affected by love, one gets affected by conceit. Maybe they're the seven deadly sins. I don't remember, but Spectre is affected by I don't even remember, but he says, "Wait a minute, I'm a spirit. How can I I'm not how can I be affected by this or something like that?" And there's another story where he um they all get transported back in time, but they have no memory of who they are. They think that they are just in that time period.
Mhm.
Uh, they actually live and exist in that time period, and so the Spectre gets transported to some time in the past, and he's like, this is weird. I'm a spirit, but I am I'm in this world and I don't know why I'm here, but it seems like I've always been here. It's just he's supposed to be this omniscient being, and I think they're trying to figure out what his place is in these stories because he doesn't quite fit with the rest of the Justice Society.
Yeah, no, like everybody else should be like they should be like a lot of level. I mean, in terms of power scaling, Spectre should be technically the like by far the strongest of these guys,
Yeah.
but it's also clear like I think in this version, Adam and maybe yeah, Hawkman could beat him toe to toe, which should not happen.
Yeah. No.
But alas, those are our thoughts on the continuation of the JSA, and I would like to see them move to different eras at some point. But if they
Yeah.
want to continue on with All Star Comics, I'm more than happy with that. But let's go ahead and talk with the chat real quick before we move on to the next book. Okay, this is in previous conversation with the George Perez and the Wonder Woman. So after Crisis on Infinite Earths, he wanted to do covers and posters only, but he offered to do Wonder Woman on a whim. Just the first 6 issues, but he enjoyed it and stuck around, which hey, I'm thankful for. Um, Everybody has their favorite lineups of teams. Usually it's the ones you grew up with, but there could be more than one good lineup. I don't disagree with that, but yeah, I have my very focused brain sometimes likes only one incarnation of a superhero team, but that is admittedly a me thing. The Wonder Woman at an issue was kind of funny seeing four
Yeah,
four
that one
members.
was
Yeah,
really funny.
I really liked it. Yeah, seeing 4 members of Wonder Woman's Rose Gallery treated like utter chumps was definitely worth a giggle. Yeah, the inclusion of Blue Devil was a bit random. Could have lived without it. Blue Devil DC finest in the future, maybe, probably not, but who knows? Growing up reading only Marvel, so thank you. So thankful for the DC Finest books. So much fun experiencing a whole universe full of characters and stories. Thank you both for the show, and thank you for watching us, Matt. We really appreciate it. Yes, here
I'm
are
with you.
yeah, you too.
That's my story. Yep. Go ahead.
JS, yay indeed. I have to admit, I'm hoping the Finest JSA books move on to when John Broome takes over from Gardner Fox. Yeah, I can agree. I can agree with you on that because yeah, I mean some of the stories in the first JSA volume, like they were hit and miss with me. I appreciate them. I appreciate the characters, but yeah, a lot of them was hit and miss. I think it was because Wonder Woman. Yep, Wonder Woman does appear. Yes, as previous conversation. JSA lineup changes considerably. The loose rule was each member had to have their own series, but not their own title. So Flash and Green Lantern drop out as All Flash and GL Quarterly begin.
Okay.
Yeah. Orlando and Woods. Hey, everyone. Karsten, I have seen people get demonetized on this platform. That's why I'm like, how do I talk about the historical context of this? But yes, they do get their butts kicked, and I'm very happy about it. Let's see. Yeah, that's why the Titans battle cry is called Titans Together. Proud Bandito, I just changed the episode numbers. Sometimes YouTube has been a little bit weird and off with the way that sometimes when I make the titles of the streams, YouTube doesn't let me make the live stream, but I appreciate you, and they have been appropriately changed and should be going forward. It's because, let's see, Quality did a similar thing in Blackhawk, where each of the team are from different countries. I'm just saying, eclectic electric Brett Hogan. I have seen people get pushed over, but again, that is neither here nor there. With this, with the historical aspect, you can see why Roy Thomas idolized Gardner Fox.
Yeah, totally. He'd go on to do Invaders.
He would indeed. And yeah, we got Namor. Maybe you should get me on your chat if they ever do an epic for the Invaders, the original 1940s, so we can talk about the original Human Torch, Namor, and Cap. Yes, Germany did surrender in May 1945, and Japan surrendered officially in September. War ends September 2nd, 1945. How I know that? Through like 70 documentaries and like 100 books that I've read on World War II. Interested in hearing what Kurtis and Dom think about just the just announced DC Finest Last Days of Superman, which has material that would have been in Golden Age Soups 8. We will get to that after the science fiction discussion. Yes, they depowered Spectre considerably by this point. They'd even given him a comedy sidekick, believe it or not. We need to get a DC Finest.
Oh, I'm looking forward. I know that there's a Spectre book coming out. And it's not this early stuff, or is it this early stuff? I can't remember.
It's the 80s.
I want to see the comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I want a book with the comedy sidekick then.
Yeah, that would be fun to read. Spectre has always had the problem of too much power. Superman is a total weakling in comparison. You know what I find funny about that, Carson? I remember talking with Ram V back in December about power scaling and how much it didn't really matter to him. He said something along the lines of, if I remember correctly, if he put Spectre and Black Canary in a boxing match, there is only one person who is coming out of there alive. But he said that the story behind Black Canary and Spectre getting into the boxing match is much more important than the boxing match itself. Which, profound words from one of my favorite writers. But yes. Unless you have any other thoughts, Kurtis, I'd love to move on to one of the most... I'm going to steal one of the adjectives from Mr. Brent Hogan, which is the very eclectic collection of stories that are founded in science fiction, the guerrilla world, which is bonkers. It's insane. It's got Captain... You know what? It has Captain Comet and space taxis. I feel like that's the only thing that should be on the advertisement for this book. But anyways, in this title, it collects Strange Adventures 35 through 48, Mystery in Space 16 through 22, and Action Comics 183-196, published between 1953 and 1954. But in this, you're going to find a lot of titles written by John Broome, and as well as Sid Jerson, who takes on a lot of the titles in the second half of this anthology series. And a lot of this anthology series spans only 5 to 8 page stories. They're not the full-fledged 16 to 20 pages that we've been getting for some of the Superman and the Wonder Woman DC Finest, a lot of these are very, very short, quick to the point stories. Something that I actually appreciated looking back, because when I first started reading some of this material, I only wanted to read the Captain Comic stuff because I love Strange Adventures and I wanted to get to it as quick as possible. But man, they are a breeze. They are very, very quick. And all of these stories aren't just involving gorillas, although some of them do. Some of them take you to random far off spots in space. Sometimes you will get characters that body swap with each other. Sometimes you're thrown into a world where somehow gorillas have become the number one animal on the totem pole on the evolution tree and not humans. But every single story in here is so like wildly different that if you're just like, this is my palate cleanser. I think that this is perfect if you're just looking for random one-offs and you don't matter, it doesn't matter to you about like, oh, like are these stories in the same, like is there an ongoing here? A lot of these are very short, quick to the point, one and done. And I had a lot of fun with the ones that I have read. What have you say? How have you to say, Kurtis?
So this, I like these types of collections. I am a fan of like the EC archives that Dark Horse has been reprinting, and and the creepy eerie books because there's just something to be said about being able to write a captivating short story, a short comic story. This is kind of how comics have yeah, like historically comics have built their bread and butter on this kind of content, having anthology stories where when you buy one issue, you get to visit 4 or 5 different worlds or experience 4 or 5 different situations and scenarios, and you really get a bang for that dime that you spent on it. And so, for those of you who don't know, collected, these are full issues collected in order. So, Dom read the contents, Strange Adventures 35 to 48. It's the complete issues of those stories. I believe they're all like double-size issues as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get 5 or 6 stories in one issue and they're all published or presented in this in order. They're not grouping all of the Comet stories together, and they're all in the order as they were originally published. And Strange Adventures was published twice a month,
Mm-hmm.
and oh no, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
Strange
Strange.
Adventures was published monthly, and Mystery in Space was published bi-monthly. So the order in the book is you get 2 Strange Adventures issues, then a Mystery in Space, then 2 more Strange Adventures issues. And then in between those, we have some short stories from Action Comics, the ones that are science fiction related, that don't relate to Superman or anything like that. Those ones are interspersed. And um, you don't know when you're reading through this book, you don't know which ones are the Action Comics stories because it doesn't say on the page itself. It only says in the table of contents. But these stories are fantastic. Not all of them are winners, but a lot of them are just really creative. Science fiction, they're all science fiction based in the terms of space exploration because this is the era of the space wars and like they call this era the 50s the atomic era because of the leaps in technology and that stuff. Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, all of those characters are super popular in other areas of media. And so the world was really looking at rockets and rocket men and astronauts and other planets and that kind of stuff. So this book reflects that kind of thinking. Um, and then, a lot of fiction writers were gaining prominence in this time as well. So there are the Johnny Comet stories I think are the definitely the highlight, and not just because he's a reoccurring character, but because well, and that's part of it because you get a chance to know him, and they get a chance to develop his character and stuff. But also the themes of those comics are just a lot of fun, where he's going to other planets and discovering new worlds and such. Johnny Tomorrow is kind of the same character,
Hmm.
but those stories just feel a lot more different. He's not a superhero. He's just more of a space explorer, and so therefore it doesn't have the same sort of adventure. Um, would I like to have had more gorilla stories in this book? Yes, absolutely. I think there's only like two,
Yeah, it's not
and
much.
yeah, and they pulled a page out of the DC handbook of saying put gorillas on the front cover and you'll sell your comics, and that absolutely worked for me because well, I would have bought it anyway, but I was very excited because there were gorillas on the cover. Um, that story came out before Planet of the Apes, I believe, and it's neat to see the similarities there. This
Yeah.
is good. It's not a volume that I think you would go and just sit down and read a whole bunch all at once. I think one issue with six stories is plenty of content, and then you can move on to another stuff because sometimes the writing style does get repetitive. It relies on a lot of the same sort of twists and tropes at the very end. So it can get a little on the redundant side, but I'm glad that these exist. And I'm really looking forward to the horror book and the war book and the newly announced Western book because I think that they're going to be in a similar vein, presented in a similar fashion.
Oh, they definitely will. And I think the most interesting thing to me is, are they going to, in the same way that they use this with the gorillas? Because yes, I mean, if you were in the 50s and you saw a talking gorilla, I think you would have wanted it.
Yeah.
I think very much the same way that they packaged this book, even though that there aren't many stories with it. I mean, a lot of this book takes place in space. Or
Yeah.
in a different time versus a guerrilla world. But I think that they're probably going to take the same steps and approach with those DC finest in the same way as this. In terms of the creativity too, I mean, you mentioned it. Like some of these stories revolve around different planets bidding for Earth at an auction, which I just
Yeah.
found super weird and awkward. But I'm like, it works. I wanted to see more of like I realized that like I was in line for the gorillas, but I stayed for everything else. As I think how at least me going through the stories that I have read, I it made me realize like yeah, I think that's probably like my thought in my mind moving on forward with this. You have another story where we Captain Comet goes back in time with a weird time machine that looks something very much like Jurassic Park, or something straight out of Jurassic World nowadays. And he has to deal with being stuck with a T-Rex that wants to eat him. I really,
Okay, I
really,
want to
yeah,
ask you about that story
yes,
because the character in that story, his name is Alan Hunter.
mm-hmm.
And his time machine is a sphere, it's an orb that he sits in, like those ones in Jurassic World, like you said. But isn't that Rip Hunter? Doesn't Rip Hunter have an orb time machine? Is that the same character?
It's not supposed to be the same character,
His last name is Hunter, Alan Hunter.
but Rip Hunter is it's Booster
Isn't
Gold.
Rip Hunter a time traveler?
Yeah, he is, but it's
That's
not.
not the same character.
Yeah, not the same character.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Which yeah, you'd think, right? But yeah, there are some ties. There are a lot of ties here that are just stuck with the 50s overall. I mean, Strange Adventures. We don't get Adam Strange until 4 years after this collection, after the stories in this collection are published. Um, and I didn't realize it until I was like all a decent amount of the stories on the way through with the Captain Comic stuff, because that's also what I wanted to see, was like, oh, like, this is Adam Strange in here at all? Like, did they set up the seeds for what actually would be Strange Adventures? Well, no, it's all Captain Comet stuff. um yeah, Captain Adam and a gorilla, like they're both like in a trial, which I also found was really, really fun. And maybe that's just a part of me saying like, man, I really wish we had more of those stories. But again, I think you end up with stories that you enjoy uh outside of what I anyways originally came for. And I'm very happy because I like stories that take place in space. I like seeing the Earth befuddled with random occurrences, and they happen all over this book. And yeah, I'm like amazing art too. Like you have Gil Kane and Carmen Infantino who also pop up, with art in here as well. There's plenty of good talent to be had in this book, and
Really.
yeah. And yeah, I also will agree with you. Like, this is not something that you should binge through. I don't think this is a bingeable book by any happenstance because, again, a lot of the stories are not interconnected. But if you are into the science fiction genre and you want to read something from the 50s that isn't Clark beating up bad guys, I think this is definitely something that you should bring in. I also want to make one quick note and then we can get to the chat, Curtis. I really like that, at least in this table of contents, how it's organized because the fonts are different colors. The fonts are different colors for their specific specific issue titles, and then they're split off with long horizontal bars that denote where
Right.
something
Yeah.
ends.
Makes it easy to read for sure. And this table of contents, because of all of these stories, it's one, two, three, four, five. It's 5 pages
It's a
long.
long page, yeah. So yeah,
Yep.
kudos to the design team for doing great overlay stuff with the table of contents. But let's get to the chat, and then we have some DC finest to at least talk about. Let's see, Invaders Complete Collections. I got lined up for War Theme reads as the November theme. Also Charlie's War, UK Commando, Battle Action by Garth Ennis, which I really really enjoyed. I have read that on the recommendation of a couple of friends, and Baby G.I. Joe compendiums. Yeah, thank you for letting me steal your adjective, Brett Hogan. I really appreciate it. The science fiction book is so much fun. Such some fantastic art by Kane, Anderson, Infantino, and more. The stories aren't as sharp as EC, but they're still pretty fun and totally bonkers.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think I mean, EC really goes for trying to get behind the human psyche and see how the human mind works in these weird circumstances, whereas DC has just more kind of the typical Golden Age / Silver Age loony bits to it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. I agree. Yeah, so these issues do predate Adam Strange, who first pops up in Strange Adventures in 1958. This collection only has stories from 53 to 54. I want all of the September DC Finest books. Unfortunately, I can't pick up all the three with other books and other concerns, so I have two. I have to pick two and catch up on the third later. So tough to choose. So these are not set in the Gorilla City we know from The Flash.
No,
Complete,
totally unrelated.
completely different gorillas in a completely different world. Carson, we don't get Gorilla Grodd up until the 60s. So it's a while before we get to Gorilla City. Science fiction is my August theme. So hitting this next month, main intention is to get through my 2080 unread stack, but also 90s Guardians of the Galaxy and a bunch of franchise titles.
Good. Awesome. I love that you have monthly themes. That's very cool.
I never do that. I'm just like, whatever's on my pile of books, I'll read them. Maybe I should do that at some point. Do a horror. I think the closest that I've done is a horror theme read through for October in 2023, but I haven't gone back to it because I don't know. I'm not as organized as all you folks. I will say. Rip Hunter is a time traveler. He can totally appear before he was created.
Yeah,
that's
right,
also,
totally.
that's also true. Since Phil is in the chat, Orlando asks, are there any other well-known sci-fi characters they could add later on? I know we got Skace Cabby and Captain Comet. Captain Comet, of course, appears in most of this book. Yeah, Animal Man, Dead Man had their starts in Strange Adventures. This was the era when DC became worried about the comics code. The canceled Phantom Stranger, Hoses of Mysteries and Secrets became sci-fi titles, and stories became less adult. This is true. I mean, the comics code was coming around in mid-late 50s, and a lot of different stories unpublished and unfeathered through time, and obviously all of the all the differences that people or creators have had to make and sacrifice because they were worried about people taking them differently. But alas, Curtis, do you have anything else to say on the science fiction front before we move on to the 6 DC Finest?
I just it'll be interesting to see how they do this. If they do a follow-up volume, will they just continue with more issues of these titles? Is there another era they could jump to easily that would be just as relevant or easy to collect? Um, I'm on board for more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, this is it's we need more genre themed ones. I am very very excited in the case for like when War comes out. I mean that's gonna be like a day one. I'm gonna sit down and read through as much of it because I really do enjoy reading war comics and that.
I've got a question for the chat. Are these issues reprinted anywhere else before, or is this the first time that they've been collected? Because the restoration on these is really good. The lines are super sharp, and the all of the like the remastered colors are all exactly how you would expect to find in like a one of the omnibuses or something like that. Like they it all looks good. So, and I know that this is the budget book. So did they restore these for this collection or did they appear somewhere else before?
I am looking it up, and apparently, a lot of no. This is the first time that they have done this. This is the first time
Okay.
that they specifically restored these issues for a collected edition. It has never been before reprinted, unless, un, not counting the single issues that recollected them in the future.
Right. Well, they did a very, very good job. I'm very impressed.
I am as well. But yes, let's go ahead and talk about the DC Finest that are coming out in August, and then the 6 ones that we got moving forward. Um, if I if I may, I am doing an announcement formally on Near Mint Condition. I still have the second half of the previous DC catalog to run through because people still want me to talk about that. What I'm waiting for is a drop from Edelweiss and finishing all the stuff that I have set up with Omar and DC formally on Near Mint. And then I'll be doing a summary of all of the ones that people are going to be interested in. Hopefully at some point whenever the catalog officially, because it hasn't officially dropped yet. I mean, this is Penguin Random House and all of that. All that other stuff. Curse you, were them. Eric Skywalker asked, "You two own every DC Finest that has come out?"
So far, yes.
Yes, and doesn't look like I'm gonna be stopping anytime soon. Per my what? I just really like the line. I really do. Like from the for all my heart. If DC had plans for a Comet, Captain Comet archive, but that was solicited but was never officially published.
Okay, so maybe some of that work
Mm-hmm.
got finished already. Um, because if it was solicited, they would have had to have been working on that
Mm-hmm.
already. So it could be that this material has been sitting restored for a while, but and it just depends, I guess, if the Captain Comet archives was going to include all of these backup stories or not. But yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
for sure. Uh, Kurtis, Library of America Finley. How about some complimentary copies of Quarter Maltese that might be laying around the office? Any chances?
For the most part, all of those copies are sold out. But did you know that Fantagraphics now has the Corto Maltese license and will be reprinting those books?
Oh.
I think in a different format, but they plan on doing the whole series again. So you'll be able to get those again soon.
Partworks Comic Reader says Adventure as a themed book with a possible subtitle could maybe take in Cave Carson. I want Carson comics reprinted, man. That would be awesome. Sea Devils, maybe Rip Hunter. Challengers would fit, but with Kirby, that's probably its own line. Hey, we could have a DC Finest Jack Kirby, and I'd buy it in a heartbeat. I do not care. But that is just me. That's just me appreciating one of the greatest ever. Hey, James, this isn't Justice Channel. This is my channel. But yes, let's go ahead and talk about the DC Finest books that are coming out in August. The first of which is JLA: The Return, which is the also another send off before the skies turn red. Not referencing Batman totally, pun intended. Justice League of America 241 to 261 annual number 3 and Infinity Inc. number 19 are going to be collected in here. This is coming out on the 5th of August.
Yep. This one should be good. I've been enjoying this period of of DC, just the pre-crisis stuff and learning about what they're like before and what they're like after. So yeah, bring it on.
Elongated Man is in there too. And I really do think that we need more It's been a while since we've had Elongated Man in many things, but really happy. I can't wait to talk about this with Kurtis. That is all I will say, because I want to talk about Elongated Man somewhere. Continuing on, another surprise from DC, because they always love throwing curveballs. A very welcome one to be sure, which is Blue Beetle challenges the Red Knights from the years 64 to 68 and 1981, coming out on the 12th of August. This is going to collect Captain Atom 83 to 86, Blue Beetle 1 through 5 from the 1964 series, the 1965 series with the first 5 issues, along with issues 50 to 54, the 1967 series and issues 1 through 5, and Charlton Bullseye issue number 1.
Can't say that I'm really a fan of anything Charlton that I've read so far. So this one maybe, while I'll still give it a good go, it's the one that I'm looking forward to the least this month.
Interesting stuff. But yeah, we've never had Dan Garrett published or collected, at least in this particular format. So I'm very excited to be able to own something that has Dan Garrett in it, so I don't just toss him around like I'm using him as a meme. And then the last one for the month of August, which is Hawkman Wings Across Time, Silver Age Hawkman in all of his glory, from issues 1 through 11 of the 1964 Hawkman series, The Brave and the Bold issues 34 to 36, 42 to 44, and 51, Mystery in Space, which some of it was collected in the science fiction DC Finest issues 87 to 90, of course, the Hawkman stories, and then Atom number 7.
This one is high on my list here. This is one that I'm looking forward to the most, I think.
Righty. Hey, Somar, how's it going? Channel is quick origin story. I got my channel name because of the Dawn of X stuff, and this was formerly an X-Men podcast before I became a full-time singular influencer. I thought I could just replace Dawn with Dom, and here I am. Right. Kurtis, you made Brent Hogan today with the Fantagraphics.
Hey, good. I'm glad.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk about the 6 issues or 6 titles. What they could possibly collect. Again, I will have a more formal announcement on near mint condition, but because people have been asking, so anyways. First one of which is The Trial of Oliver Queen, which follows Longbow Hunters immediately. This is coming out on the 10th of February of next year. This is going to possibly collect issues from 1988 to 1990.
Yeah, really looking forward to this because I loved the first volume. Absolutely loved it. So to get more of this, very exciting.
I love this era of Green Arrow. Green Arrow Longbow Hunters is still, like, that entire era of Green Arrow is still one of my favorite eras ever for the character, just overall for DC. I can't say no to Mike Grell whenever he's on a project for sure.
Yeah.
Moving on forward, we do have Superman The Last Days. I had the years wrong on this one because I was making these off whim. But nonetheless, this is stuff from the 50s by Jerry Siegel, Joe Shuster, coming out on the 17th of February.
Yeah, so this is kind of people are saying online that this is stuff that would have been in the Superman Golden Age Omnibus Volume 8, should that ever come out.
Mm-hmm. I think I can surmise with an agreement on their parts for the mapping. Continuing on, we do have Western, which is the next installment of the DC Finest themed series. Hangman Never Loses. Got John Albano, Joe Kubert, Robert Kanigher, coming out on the 17th. I think I have the date wrong in there. Anyways, this is the cover to All-Star Western issue number 5, so I'm going to presume that all of All-Star Western, those 11 issues, are going to be in there. But again, we do not have the contents for this one, at least public yet.
This is a genre one, so it's going to have a hodgepodge of different titles, I'm sure, which is great. I don't know how much Western DC was still doing in the 70s, but maybe it'll all be in one volume. I don't know.
Yeah, we shall have to see. Continuing onward, we do have the dates. Again, I have the dates wrong for Justice League of America, Starro the Conqueror, which is, yes, this is going to be the first volume ever of the Justice League's first adventures, as they were published in their first appearance in Brave and the Bold, issue number 28, against the big old Starro, one of the weirdest and trippiest villains in DC lore, collecting, we don't know yet, but I'm going to presume the Brave and the Bold issue 28, which is their first appearance, will be collected in here along with the first issue of JLA, and we shall have to see how much they include in here.
Yeah, this one was going to be classic. So I think with this volume, we've got most of the first volumes of all of the major titles, I think.
Yeah.
At least the core Justice League characters.
Oh, for sure.
No, actually,
No.
Is that the first Aquaman or is that not the first Aquaman? I don't remember.
Not the first Aquaman.
Okay, so there's another one before that.
Which should collect. Well, it's not Arthur Curry Aquaman, but it's Adam Water, the Golden Age Aquaman that most people. I
forget about.
I don't think they're on. He's on many people's minds. The Flash, the fastest man dead, which is, I'm going to surmise that this is from the 70s because this is the cover to Flash 209, if my mind recalls correctly. Robert Kanigher takes over the title on issue 195, which is why I am thinking that this volume will start off with 195. Nonetheless, this is 70s Flash, and this is coming out on the 14th of April of next year. I have 2025.
Cool.
I just realized I had all the wrong years on this stupid... Stupid.
Oh no.
Oh guys, don't worry. I will make sure that that those days don't happen. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first. I loved Silver Age Flash, or at least that first volume.
Yeah. It's nice. I'm glad that they're jumping around because I'm very interested in areas. Although I love the first volume, I want to read different areas of all these characters. So thanks for doing this one.
Indeed. And my favorite of these ones that we've come out with so far, The Death of Jason Todd, which directly follows up The Killing Joke and other stories.
This is my most anticipated.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
This on Westerns, but this one, like I love some of these stories that I've read in this volume, and to have this whole period of the mid to late 80s covered in a row of consecutive Batman ones. Well, I was complaining about that with other titles, like, come on, skip around. I'm very happy that these ones are in order. After this, I don't care where they go. They can go to any era of Batman after this, because this covers some of my favorite stuff that I've read of this character.
I really, really love post-crisis Batman, and what I want in this DC Finest, and maybe I'll talk to my DC guy, or Omar and I can talk to the DC guys about it. I really want those letters in with the votes and the stuff with the behind the scenes stuff with Jason Todd as in material. I think that this has a chance to be one of the coolest DC Finest collections that we have gotten so far. And I think, again, they've done a tremendous job with adding in all of the itty-bitty finer details with all the extra stuff that they're adding, even if they don't have back material like they did with the Omnis. But man, yeah, this is going to be a heartbreaker, and I can't wait to talk about that next year in April. Like,
yeah,
by far.
It's going to be really good.
It is going to be awesome. But that, in as of they say, is the tail end of the stream. Again, I will have a technical former announcement on Near Mint Condition, not only with these specific DC Finest titles, but with all of the DC books that have been put on Penguin Random House. I think I can also say, I'll also reiterate this on Near Mid Condition tomorrow, where I will be hosting the Saturday stream to talk about some of the inside materials, at least of what I know. And also, there will be a follow up video to my early in the morning announcement tomorrow for all of these books. And Kurtis might be there too. Who knows?
You never know where I'll pop up next.
Indeed. Let me go ahead and talk with the chat a bit, and then we can call it a successful DC Finest stream day with all this. Yeah, can't wait for Hawkman. Hawkman is one of the most waiting for the most. Joe Kubert is one of Brent's favorite artists. More Longbow Hunters
Good.
era, very much in high favor with the chat. How will this Green Arrow differ for the Omnis? If you,
We won't know that for
yeah,
sure until we get the contents.
indeed. But again, I'll keep you all in the loop, both here and very much on Near Mint. Have y'all seen Superman 4166, Super Friends, or the 88 animation series, and what do you think of them?
Superman 41, those are the Fleischer cartoons. Those are fantastic, fantastic cartoons. Very early in the days of animation and early in the days of Superman, but each one of those is a little mini masterpiece. I love those cartoons.
They're fun.
Um, yeah,
I watched
the 66 Super. Oh, so go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say that I watched. We watched a good ton of them when I took an animation class for one of my GEs back. This was back 3 years ago. Um, he showed us like how different like the graphic design like animations were compared to nowadays, and like how we could learn from their subtle movements. And I thought, man, like not only was it cool having a teacher who taught us superhero related stuff in an animation class, I found it really cool that he
Yeah.
decided to pull from that 41 show, which I thought was amazing.
They're just classic cartoons for a reason. There's so much to learn from them. Those were pioneers of the industry who were making those. The 66 Super Friends is the Hanna-Barbera stuff. It's okay. It's definitely aimed for more of a juvenile market and such, and so you have to keep that in mind. The 1988 animated series is from Ruby Spears, and that one is actually pretty good. It's got some nice animation. I love 80s cartoons. I love that era and that style, and this one fits right in there. That one is definitely more in line with the post-crisis era of Superman that they were doing at the time. But that one's a fun series.
For sure.
Just one season.
Just only one season, but it was a pretty decent season if I do say so myself. Let me see if I can. Yeah. Western JLA books are coming out the same month as Hellblazer by Jenkins and Phillip. Man, DC's trying to bankrupt all of us. And I really do say this from the bottom of my heart. Like, they are doing a spectacular job. Or whatever adjective I decided to pull out of my hat. No, they really are doing a fantastic job over there. And I really am happy that not only did they have Derek together, like, I am, for the first time in quite a while, and I'm more hyped for DC overall than anything that Marvel is doing on their publishing end. And there's no shade to Marvel. I really, really am excited for all the DC stuff.
Yeah,
That
Marvel's been going through some changes.
I have been. Western cover should be a poster. I agree with you. Let's see. When you're showing all these upcoming covers, 7 years old again, watching a tour commercial. I'm super excited for this one. Um, Flash is definitely recommended. Still very hyped for all of these. Line being $40 is interesting. I spend about $40 singles a week, and I'd probably rather spend $40 on one of these since they also seem to be releasing one just about every week. Again,
Oh,
another.
that's an
Yeah.
interesting note because all throughout this year, through these first two waves of, oh, by the way, these books that we talked about are the end of the first wave of DC Finest
Yep.
that came out in the first catalog. And starting next month, we'll be talking about the second wave. And so those first two waves, they've been very consistent of releasing one on each of the first 3 weeks of the month. and there would be nothing on the fourth week, or what if there was a fifth week, there would be nothing on there as well. Um, and then at the end of this year, in November and no, in December and January, they only had two per month. And so now with these announcements that we just said, there's also only two per month for February, March, and April, unless they are going to add more. But we might be seeing them slowing down their releases a little bit.
Yeah, we'll have to see about the their release schedule, but it is very refreshing to see something that rivals again the Epic line over Marvel, or something that DC just has that is uniquely different from the rest of their catalog, which is already so uh different in terms of what they're putting out between the absolutes, omnibuses, regular complete collections, and
Yeah.
whatnot, the compacts too, etc. Yeah, we Starlin Batman is really good. You might have a typo in there, Partworks Comics reader. um, but alas, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But yes, that is it for the both of us. Please hit the like button, guys. It does help out the channel. It also will let other people know about all of these cool books that DC is publishing, and let your friends know. Let other people know that Kurtis and I are on to talk about everything DC Finest related and our experiences with all of these books. You can where can people find you, Kurtis?
I hang around Facebook most of the time. I'm on there's a Facebook Epic Collection group and a DC Finest group that James is linking to over there. Just search for DC Finest or search for Epic Collections, and you'll find those groups online. I also have a YouTube channel at Epic Marvel Podcast where I do a weekly stream on Monday afternoons Pacific.
Yes, sir. Indeed. And he does have epic unboxing streams that I silently watch. Again, as I'm doing homework, probably watching a Kurtis stream. You can check that out
Nice.
there. But of course, you can find everything that, well, I do at least on the offside at comicreleases.com, where every single one of these DC Finest books are on there, and they have the correct dates. And if you want to check what's coming out, not only in August but the full upcoming months, everything is on there. And if you help us with just $2 a month, you can get your own watch list, and at the very least, it does help out with server costs, which yeah, I'm very proud to say that because of you guys, we have been able to improve a lot of the website due to y'all. So I want to thank you all quick for that. A couple of other things, and then I think we will be out of here. We do not have a date yet for the new DC catalog, and again, that's just partly because our folks are all over at SDCC having fun, so we do not have anything on that yet. And in terms of, yes, tomorrow's video, it will be up at 3 a.m. Pacific time or 6 a.m. Eastern time, depending on where you live in the world, where I will just be, again, just covering the baseline of what is out, and then I will have a follow-up video after that to talk about the contents and details. But that is it from me. I am Dom of X. Please subscribe if you are brand new. If you're, again, hit that like button and subscribe and all that good jazz. And we hope to see you all next month.